1. It's long. Haven't spoken to my neighbor for nearly 3 years, after I began refusing to be her taxi. We had a decent relationship for a time, always cordial. Neighbor doesn't drive, and at the time, I was a stay-at-home mom with a toddler and 2 in school. She first began by coming by one afternoon, asking if I would take her and her kids to the dentist. Okay, sure, it's not far. Then another time, her child needed to be seen at urgent care and she needed me to take them. But this is when issues first began. That particular day, I had a contractor at the house and needed to finish with this. She told me I needed to hurry. I told her it wouldn't take long, but if it's an emergency, call for emergency services or an Uber. She said it would wait. So my contractor is done and we go, and I pick them back up. Well, this goes on for a while, off and on. Frankly, it's a little frustrating, but I'm trying to be neighborly. But then she began flipping a little. One day I get a text asking if I've left to take my kids to school. I had. She had overslept and wanted me to drop hers off for her. Our kids went to different schools. I say yes, but she needs to come too because I won't sign them in. She agreed, and overall I spent an extra 40 minutes out of my morning with my toddler, who doesn't love being in the car. But okay again, being neighborly. Then a pattern emerges. Kids keep oversleeping and knocking on my door or texting. I often try to run errands after I drop my kids off, so I'm out. I get a text. Where are you? Will you be back from taking your kids to school soon? I need a ride. I say no, I won't be home, and then she asks if my husband can do it, since he works from home. No, he's working. She got snippy and said she'd have to call them out of school again, and they've missed too much. I ignored that and went about my errands. My toddler had some health complications, so we were often at the dock. Get another text asking where I am and when I'll be home. Say in the next city over and no idea. Needs to call an Uber. She claims Uber is unsafe and she will get killed. Then says she will get a ride to her appointment in that same city, and I can wait for her to be done and take her home. I ignored her after that. Next week I'm at another dock far from home. Again get a text. This time it's, where are you? You're not home again and your husband won't answer the door. We need a ride to the dentist in 30 minutes or I will have to cancel the visit. Can you hurry home? I am beyond tired of being questioned about my whereabouts. My husband doesn't even do that, so I ignore her, finish the visit, and take my kids to get treats. Then a text, are you coming? I need you to hurry. Again, I ignore. I'm over it at this point. Then, never mind, we missed it. Final straw was 2 weeks later. She meets me outside while I'm doing yard work. Said she got her kids signed up for an orthodontist and needs me to drive them to monthly appointments, and she will pay gas. And the kicker, orthodontist is about 40 minutes drive in the bad part of town. Consider the appointment can take an hour, and then 40 back. Every month for roughly 2 years, she said I could just wait with my toddler or there is shopping nearby. I tell her flat out no. I don't like being far from the kids in school in case I've got to get them, and my toddler will be miserable, and that's just too far. I asked her why she booked an orthodontist that far when she doesn't drive, and she said because it was cheaper. She was very frustrated with me, and had been frustrated I hadn't been around more lately to help her out. My husband is mad at this point and told me to stop completely because she's using me and he doesn't like that. He was right. I told her I won't change my mind. She grew cold towards me. She got another ride, but then 1 month her ride billed on her, and she came and asked if I would take her. I told her no. I explained it last time, and that's not changing. She was furious and legit never spoke to me again, and I certainly won't reach out for more of that. 2. So a bit of context. Where I live, you can't buy knives or lighters until you're officially 18. If you try, the cash register will shut down until a manager types in a password. At least in the store this happened, that happens. Basically, the machine will scan whatever ID, and if it's not valid or even says that the person is a day younger than 18, it pops up, invalid ID and a password to return to checkout. And in the case this happens when no manager is there, which is rare, the staff are kind of stuck one register down until one arrives. Now I'm a regular there, so the employees know me by name, and I'm 18. I don't look it though. Also, the way this store is set up, you walk in the door and turn left into the store. The checkout line is blocked off by racks, so if someone is blocking the path, it's hard to get through the store and back out the door. This was never really an issue, well, not until recently. Sometimes a big cart was in the way, but the people would usually be polite and say something like, "I'm almost done, I'm sorry for this." There's 2 registers in the store, one behind the other. Now onto the entitlement. So I had just finished shopping for dinner, got some spaghetti stuff and some lighters for my incense. I also had a small black pocket knife being held for me. I got in line behind this kid, who looks to be about 16 or 17 and was waiting patiently. This kid gets to the register and plops up a pocket knife and some lighters. I just wait my turn. The lady at the till, Ms. Awesome, scans his items. Then he hands his ID. Apparently, he was only a few days away from turning 18. The interaction that followed went something like this. The kid was a dummy. "Will this be all?" "Yeah." Miss Awesome looks at the ID. "Can you verify your age?" "I'm old enough, just scan the items." She starts to explain that the ID states he's too young. "My birthday's tomorrow, just sell me the stuff and do your job." She shrugs and scans the items, then the ID. The machine flashes up the box. The manager was on break, so she was not in store. "I'm sorry, I tried to tell you, it just wouldn't let you through." "I'm not leaving without my items." At this point, I had been there an extra 10 minutes longer than I wanted. Miss Awesome calls over her equally awesome coworker, who opened register 2 and waved me over. Me and the coworker start chatting as I'm getting my things scanned, and now enters the entitled mum. This was roughly what happened. "Honey, we gotta go. Have you paid yet?" "No, she's not letting me pay." "Your ID's up the register. I can't activate any of the functions to allow you to pay." "She's lying." "How dare you hold up my precious son? He's old enough. Let him pay." Miss Awesome is standing firm. "Look, ma'am, I can't open any of the functions until a manager arrives." "Well, then get them. I want to get you fired." "She's on break. You're free to wait." "Mom, I want my presents." "You're too young. I can't sell these to you." "No, he's not. Stop lying. Here, just scan my ID." Miss Awesome is now looking fed up. That isn't how the system works. At this point, I feel I'm getting stupider by witnessing this. And I put up my lighters and ask if they still have the knife. They say yes, and pull out my tiny multi-tool pocket knife from behind the counter and scan it. I hand them my ID. "Okay, OP, will this be all, or do you need new headphones again?" They jokingly say this is an inside joke. Yeah, I'm fine. They scan my ID, and on drivers, and I pay. The entitled mother takes notice of this and screeches out, "That girl looks to be the same age as my son." "No, she's not. She must have her fake ID. She must." "Ma'am, I can assure you it's not fake," says Miss Awesome. She's the one it took me to get it after her shift a few weeks prior. The dummy walks over to me and holds his hand out. I must have looked a bit confused, and I try to walk away, in which he blocks me. "My ID doesn't work. Give me yours." I'm taken aback. "No." And as she said, the machine doesn't work like that. "Great idea, honey. Hand it over." Again, no. "Ma'am, please stop harassing OP. She's done nothing wrong. And can you move? You're blocking the line." "One sec." And the EM reaches for my ID. "Miss, I warn you not to touch me." For more context, I am military trained, and due to an unfortunate birth defect that affects my adrenaline, I'm rather strong. It could, however, easily kill me. "Oh, don't be a bitch." "If you touch me, you will be restrained." I was in full view of the camera and said this very loudly so people could hear as to cover my butt. She rolls her eyes and grabs the arm my wallet's on. Miss Awesome's already on the phone with the police. I grab her wrist and restrain her. I did not hurt her, just took her wrist and held it behind her back, pushing her down. She was quite small, so this was the best thing to do as to not hurt her. I am not a violent person, so this was keeping things from escalating. The dummy seems to be terrified now and is unsure what happened. EM is screaming profanities. The police showed up, and I let go once they did, as I didn't want to seem to be the aggressor. EM starts making up some wild tale about how the employees weren't cooperative and how I attacked her. "That's not what happened, sir," says Miss Awesome. "I can take you to the back to the CCTV recording," says her co-worker. Fine. Officer 2 gets statements." Officer 2 gets everyone's statements. I tell the truth and explain that I did warn her. EM makes up her own twisted version. Miss Awesome matches my statement. Officer 1 and the co-worker come back to the front. "You're coming with me? Ma'am, would you like to press charges?"
Yes, I would."
"Cuff her." And Officer 2 cuffs EM. "Ma'am, do you want to press assault charges?" "Yeah, she dug her nails into my wrist." EM's acting shocked and screaming about rights. Officer 2 smiles and proceeds to read off rights. They left, and everyone who had to wait in line got a free item under $5. At the hearing, the EM broke down in tears and pulled the insanity card, after which she had to get a wellness checkup. She is now in an inpatient hospital, and I had to get a restraining order against her husband. He came banging on my door and verbally berated me for 30 minutes. Once done, I calmly told him to get off my lawn. He banged on my door more, actually cracking it. Old house. And now I'm pressing charges for damage to private property. These people, honestly. If the EM didn't pull insanity, this could have gone for a year or more. 3. For about 10 years, I was one of the teachers and supervisors for a kids' room, basically a playroom, at a fraternal organization. The kids were ages 1.5 to 14. I usually was there with the younger kids, but the day of this incident I had just finished my shift when the older kids' activity got out. Some of the older kids were hanging around waiting to be picked up by their families. An entitled boy, 10 years old, his sister, 9, were waiting for their grandma and parents. Their grandma was one of my least favorite people in the organization at the time. I didn't know the entitled mom or the entitled dad, although I'd seen them around. Because there were still kids waiting, the other teachers and supervisors and I decided to keep the kids' room open so they could play until they got picked up. Some of the other adults were around too, but I was the one assigned to the room during this time. My boss came in and told me that it was okay to let the older ones play video games, so I set that up. The kids were taking turns with the controllers, so I was keeping an eye on them, but not really worried about that part of the room. Maybe 4 or 5 older kids, there were 4 younger kids, so they needed more of my attention, but I was multitasking. I saw the TV screen flicker just for a second, and the older kids started calling for me, even though I was 2 feet away from them, to come see what's wrong. As I was telling them that I'd be right there, the entitled boy yelled,
I'll fix it.
He went behind the TV and I heard something plastic fall. Now there's nothing behind there and nothing around except the TV, the desk that it's on, and the wall, so I knew that the plastic thing had to be part of the TV. The controller is plugged in the front, but the back has a panel that opens up for repairs. Entitled boy had popped it open and was trying to take it apart. I rushed over there, pulled his hands away, and told him to stop. He was adamant that he knew how to fix it and that he'd helped his dad fix their TV at home. His sister was shaking her head. He tried to grab at the insides of the TV again, and I told him that he needed to be at the other end of the room for a while if he couldn't control himself. I got the game going again, and the rest of the kids were playing or watching again. All of a sudden, entitled boy huffed out of the room. He came back in with his mother and father. The mother yelled, "You ought never to talk to my son like that again, do you understand? You're not in charge." We are here, so we are in charge of him. If you have a problem with him, you come tell us, but you don't ever talk to him again. The dad chimed in with, He does know how to fix the TV. We have one like that at home. He knows what he's doing. At this point, the sister was almost crying and had become a bump on the floor from embarrassment. I told the parents, I am in charge of this room right now, and I couldn't leave because I have other kids to supervise also. You don't need to yell at me, and if you have a problem with how I run the room when I'm here, you can take it up with my boss. They collected their kids and left, slamming the door behind them. My boss came in half an hour later and apologized for the parents' behavior. I told him exactly what happened, because of course they only told him that I'd yelled at their son for no reason, as he was trying to help fix the TV. I asked him what I should do in future if I have that or a similar situation with that family, and he said to get the grandma or get him right away, even if it's calling him on the phone. He's usually in another part of the building when we have it open. He said that I did the right thing in this case, though, and he'd talk to the parents and make it clear to them who was in charge. A week later, he posted a laminated sign on the room door that we filled in with our names when we were there. Kind of a teacher's name is on duty, except it was worded a little differently, and had a blank for 2 names for the different age groups. 4. In mid-June, I started working at a beach as a janitor with a few friends in a lakeside town with 2 beaches. Over this half-month, I encountered a lot of things. Below were some of the highlights. I'm 22 years old and a seasonal worker. I'm a janitor at Beach 1 and spare cashier. John is my friend, also 22. He is a seasonal worker, rotating cashier at both beaches. Then there's Patrick, another seasonal worker and John's brother. He's a janitor at Beach 1. Tom is 21 years old, a seasonal worker and my friend, janitor at Beach 2. Godfrey is 60 years old, the town's mayor. Our boss's boss, awesome dude. Jane is also 60 years old and our boss, an awesome lady. Sue is also 60. Local worker, janitor at Beach 1. An angry and vindictive racist Karen. Many entitled families and other guests will be sprinkled throughout. My duties included cleaning the restrooms and other rooms around the beach, raking leaves, watering plants, collecting the trash, etc. However, we must do a lot more than cleaning, as the beach staff for us is a cashier and 2 janitors. The cashier can't leave the register, so we janitors are supposed to keep order and pay attention to guests. The local government operates the 2 beaches because we are open 24/7, but guests must pay a ticket between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Tickets are 50% cheaper after 4 p.m. A single ticket for adults was about $1.50, and we don't have a discount for students or pensioners. We raise prices in July. We have other kinds of tickets for children under 14, children under 6, multiple entries a day, weekly tickets, etc. We also close some of the bathrooms and locker rooms at 6 p.m. Average encounters at the cash register and around the beach.
Did you close the beach at 6 p.m.?
Yes, we bring out the water pumps and drain off the lake.
You do that every day?
Next, a guest walks by a gigantic "You can pay with this special cafeteria card" sign. Can I pay by the special cafeteria card? Then there was one who slammed a bill at the counter. I would like 2. 2 of what? Tickets, obviously. Okay, what kind of tickets? You're supposed to tell me that. Another guest slammed a bill at the counter. I would like 2. I draw the number 2 on the paper and give it to them. They stare at me angrily. A third guest also slams their bill on the counter. 2 adults and 1 children. We have Europeans and Asians in stock. We are unfortunately out of children, but we should get a new shipment soon. They visibly reevaluate their choice of words. Then there was this time a guest walked to the restroom with a "This restroom will be closed at 6 p.m. Please use the other restrooms for the remainder of the day" sign. Thank you for your understanding. I just closed at 6 p.m. Why is this door closed? Then there was the entitled mother who hurried into the female restroom, which I am currently cleaning with a small child, and stares at me like I'm some kind of ghost. "Excuse me, ma'am, I'm currently cleaning this room. Everything is wet. There is a family restroom with a small toilet next door."
But my child needs to pee now.
Special encounters. John was at the register and I was doing my rounds when I spotted Jane waving to me by the fence. I walk over there and she tells me to stop by the register to chat. I finish my round and enter the register. We chat for about 5 minutes when the lifeguard rushes in.
"There's blood on the beach."
"Okay, where? I'll clean it up."
Everywhere."
Sue goes with the lifeguard to check it out while I grab my supplies. I arrive at the scene and see the entire 300 meters of the shore covered in bloody footsteps. Great. After an hour and a half, I finish, no thanks to Sue, but more on that later, and this EK walks out of the water with a bleeding leg. I tell him to stop immediately, as I just scrubbed a Scooby-Doo level dirty trail of blood off concrete. But he walks up to the drinking fountain and puts his leg inside to wash it. I tell him to stop, you can't do that. But his mother comes up. "Why can't he wash his leg? Can't you see the blood?" "Because it is bloody. People drink from that." "Oh, it's all right. It won't cause any problems." At that point, I'm just tired and want to go home, so I wash the fountain with Ipop and go on with my rounds. Sue started to hate me because she hates Jane, and I do what Jane says because she's my boss. She does office work mostly, so she isn't present on the beach, and Sue constantly says stuff like,
"She should get bored elsewhere. This is my beach."
Or whenever there's some kind of problem, she just shrugs it off with,
"I don't give a shit. It's not my job."
Since the blood incident, she calls the mayor's office to report that I don't do anything. Jane had to come down and take pictures during a shift when I was on duty, and confronted her about this bullshit. I was in the cash register learning how things work. John stepped outside to speak with Sue outside the register. We arrived about 15 days earlier than Patrick and Tom, and she tells John the following.
"Hope he doesn't do what I tell him. I hope your brother will arrive soon so I can teach him how things work."
"Yeah, sure. If you have a problem with OP, why don't you tell him?"
"He's your friend? Why should I tell him?"
"Because he's your coworker." Then an entitled family walked up to the counter. Note that at the time the ticket was about 80 cents, with an afternoon discount.
"Do you have a pensioner discount?"
says the EM.
"I would like 2 pensioners and 2 children."
"I'm sorry, ma'am, but unfortunately we don't. However, the ticket is all red."
"Well, congratulations. At least you should fix the parking lot."
I look out to the parking lot. It's small, but never full, and you have to walk like 2 minutes top to reach the cash register. Okay, so 2 adults and 2 children? That will be $3.40. The EM angrily slams her card before me.
"You should also dry up the puddles. It's impossible to get here."
It was 36C, and it hadn't rained for days, but the only water near was the lake. A teen lost her consciousness for a few seconds. I was grabbing lunch with John when the other kids rushed by. Who did they call? Not the lifeguard, not 911, not the Red Cross volunteers, not a beach employee, but the other kids. They were around 16 or 17, and they stand around this girl who's scared and has no idea what happened. I rushed for the lifeguard and had her checked out. I was cleaning a restroom when an EM angrily rushes out, holding a hand to her right eye. She then storms out and asks,
"Where's the mirror?"
"There isn't any here, but there is one next door." She walks away, but I see that her head is bleeding. "Excuse me, ma'am, but your head is bleeding. The lifeguard is a few meters away over there. She will bandage it up properly."
"Oh, it's fine. The kid just kicked me in the eye."
"But
it's fine."
And she walks away. 5. I'm a 19-year-old female and landed a job at Burger King where I live, after having job searched quite a bit. I was ecstatic since it was my first job after having focused on school. It's a summer job, so nothing too difficult. I got the hang of the register in the first few days, and everything has been running smoothly until today. I am proud to announce that I have encountered my first fast food Karen. We'll call her Jenny because she looks like a Jenny. Near the end of my shift, which was from 6 a.m. in the afternoon, Jenny comes in and stands by the register while I finish stocking lids out in the dining room. I was the only cashier at the front desk at that moment in time, so I rushed to get back. She already had the snarkiest look on her face, and the fake tan and highlights weren't doing any favors for her complexion. She has her child in tow. As I get to the register, I put my number in, and I go through the whole "Welcome to Burger King, may I take your order please?" thing that I've already said a million times today. Now at my location, we have 3 ice flavors currently. The only flavor we do not sell is blue raspberry. Oh, that blue raspberry. She asks for an icy, and I ask which flavor she would like as I stood there. As clear as day, she says the name of another flavor of icy that we do sell. I ring it up, then I put in more items, blah blah. I get to the transaction. I verify the order, she pays. After she declines her receipt, I tell her that I'm going to make the icy. I go to make it, and I bring it out. She stares at me for a second before huffing loudly, hitting the counter a bit with her keys in her hand, and says, "This is supposed to be a blue raspberry?" I then tell her that we don't have blue raspberry, and that she has asked for another icy flavor. She gets more agitated, waving her hand in the air and raising her voice. "Well, why did you ring me up for it then if there wasn't any blue raspberry?" I heard her order another flavor clearly, and keep in mind blue raspberry is not on the menu, so I don't know where in her mind she thought it was an option to begin with. Anyways, I asked her if she would like another flavor instead of this one, as she was now looking at the cup of icy goodness, like it was a cup full of human waste and vomit. Jenny asked her daughter if she wanted another flavor, to which she simply replied, "No, I want blue raspberry." She then looks at me with a menacing stare as my manager comes over to see what the issue is. After listening to Jenny's complaint, she says that we do indeed not sell blue raspberry. At this point, I'm getting nervous and Jenny is getting red in her face. The manager offers her a refund, simple, right? A done deal, no strings attached. Not for Jenny. Jenny proceeds to say, "Whatever," while lightly slamming the counter with her keys as she walks away, not even accepting the refund, and giving me a death glare. I go back to my register, thinking that's the end of it, and considering what I could do in another situation like this in the future to better handle it and avoid it. Oh no, she was just getting warmed up. 10 minutes later, the store manager comes in. She's really laid back and friendly, and is always kind toward me. She passes by me as she is walking to the back, and she says to me, eye contact and all, "Can I order a blue raspberry?" I just stared dumbfounded as she began to laugh. I laughed as well when she told me Jenny had confronted her about mysterious blue raspberry icy everywhere in the store. And the store manager had told her the same thing the manager and I had told her. I wasn't at fault, as I simply had done what I was trained to do, and she said I was doing great. Well, there you have it, my first encounter with a Karen in the wild. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to The Impractical Proudness of Parrots, Ipop, episode 90, and thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, I'd appreciate it if you showed that like button who's boss. Alrighty, let's see. Right, no special shout-outs, I don't think today. I don't believe so. I think we're all good for that. Yes, we are. Okay, so right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And as it's hot and there was ice things in the last story, what's your favorite way to cool down that isn't ice cream? For me, it's basically get as many fans on as I can reasonably muster. Usually 2. I'm up to the 2 stages of the 2 fan stage of the summer right now. 2 in the bedroom, 2 in the living room. And one of my favorite things to do is to crush ice in the blender, then pour like fruit juice on top of it, so orange, cranberry, apple, doesn't matter, just fruit juice, and stick that in a mason jar with a straw and sip on that. If not, then I like those insulated bottles. I've got a few that I really need to clean out though. I think bicarbonate vinegar should help. We'll see. And, just taking a bottle of flavored water, put it in the freezer for a bit so that it gets really cold. Colder than the fridge would probably get it, but not enough that it's freezing. Then pour it in the insulated bottle and it stays really cold throughout the night. So those are my favorite ways to handle the heat. What are some of yours that I can then steal? Please let me know in a comment below. Okay. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.